maddening. This part of the world, how do you see? Now here, you just go down this road. Oh my God, I was listening to this guy filling in for Savage. He's nuts. He's a freaking hater. I couldn't believe it. I will just say this. I listened to women like Sharina, who called earlier in the program. Listen to her. She sounded like a very nice woman who's scared, calling from the Netherlands. I look at history. You see, conservatism is a worldview based on history. This is why Karl Marx said history means nothing. Karl Marx said, just erase history, vanquish it, don't look at it, do not look at it. But the conservative says, no, we need to look at it. We need to see what worked, what didn't work. What can we learn from history? Because as we read history, it tends to repeat itself. Can I tell you, the radicals from this particular religion are very long-suffering. You know, here in the United States, we think quarterly, don't we? Well, we get the quarterly earnings. Oh, I've got that quarterly report. Oh, I need that quarterly bonus, right? That's how we think. Got my quarterly taxes. We think quarterly. We're thinking 3 months. People from that part of the world, from that culture, are thinking 300 years. 300 years. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. I just read a headline a moment ago that said by 2020, was it 2020, Germany's going to have 20 million Muslims? Start doing the math. Those 57 Muslim countries, they weren't always Muslim countries. Some of them were Christian countries. How did they get taken over? They got taken over by immigration. They got taken over by population booms. You know, the womb, essentially. They got taken over by converting people at the sword, scaring the life out of them. That's what happens. We have to look at this. Now, I'm going to give you another story. This comes out of California Wednesday. Kid goes nuts on a college campus, UC Merced, and stabs 4 people. He does it just the way, from all accounts, the way that the Palestinians are teaching people how to do this via social media. Take a knife, try to kill people, and then you'll get shot dead and die, and you go to Allah. That's exactly what this kid did. And in his manifesto, he even talked about Allah. And here you have the media saying, no, you guys are jumping to conclusions. See, if you go where I went on this immediately, you're a hater. What's the matter with you? You're a loser. You're Islamophobe. You can't do that. And so then the sheriff from this county in California comes out and says, well, yes, there was a manifesto, and it says something about Allah, but no. Listen, if you're a Christian, you're going to talk about Jesus. What he did was silly. Silly, he tried to kill 4 people. Please, once again, listen to cut 7.
There was a few references to Allah, and I want to tell everybody, as me being a Christian, it would be like me referencing the Lord Jesus. If I'm going to go do something silly, doesn't mean that I'm anything other than I've got a belief in a higher power, silly? And his belief was in through the Muslim faith, and but there's still nothing to indicate that there was anything other than that.
This sheriff is cuckoo. I mean, I don't know. Maybe somebody I really don't know what's going on here. Does somebody... Was he told to say this, or else he'd lose his job? Does he fear for his own life because he's seen the intel, and if you speak out, maybe you're going to be a target? Silly? Trying to kill 4 people with a knife is silly? And how many Christians are doing this, Sheriff? I really want to know. How many Christians are going around trying to kill people in this country? Well, that's why he would have had Jesus in his manifesto if he was a Christian. I don't know of any Christians trying to do this. I know of Christians trying to avoid being killed. And then the other question is, why is it, as soon as his name was released, ISIS puts out a tweet praising this guy? How does that happen? Eve is listening via KSFO in San Francisco. Eve, you're on the air. Go ahead, please, on the Savage Nation.
Yes, regarding the UC Merced stabbings, in the Oakland Tribune this morning, in big, bold, black letters, there were just 4 words, and then I'll tell you the 2 words that are missing. It says, quote, revenge fuels knife rampage. And I wrote in the margin, no, revenge against infidels fueled knife rampage. That's what's missing. everything you've been talking
Because, Eve, here's the deal. Now think about this with me. If this was revenge on the little study group that he got kicked out of, don't you think he would exact revenge upon those who kicked him out of the group? He didn't. He went after a cop. He went after a construction worker and a couple other kids. Well, what kind of revenge is that?
That's my point. It's against infidels, and that's what they did not put in their headlines.
Because it goes back to the caller from the Netherlands who is saying what happens is over time you become afraid to tell the truth because you don't want to look like a hater or as Islamophobe or a racist.
Is here in the Bay Area. You live here. It's the same way every place you go. Every newspaper will not tell you what their names are until they're absolutely forced, and they play it down. So get the force.
You're right. Now, Eve, this goes back to, if I may, goes back to what I read from Government Zero just a moment ago. The media continues to bend over backward to support a president who will not even say the word Islamic when he talks about the Islamic State. Right from Government Zero. Right from Government Zero. Barbara is calling, WDRC. Barbara, you're on the Savage Nation. Thank you for checking in. Go ahead, please.
I'm driving through Springfield, Massachusetts right now, through a sea of cars, and the police all over the country have had sensitivity training vis-a-vis Islam, not to discuss Islam. Our State Department is full of Muslims, and they have expunged the word Islamic terrorism or Islam out of all the documents in the federal government. Our president is bringing people in from Syria, over 100,000 a month. I called Homeland Security. I've called the CDC. I've called everybody, and I said, "What are we doing? Why are we doing this? We can't be bringing these people in here." And they say, "Oh, well, they're all refugees. We have to let all the refugees in." They have distorted our language to the degree that they can make anybody sound like anything. Because
Barbara, you're right. I feel your frustration, and my heart aches as I listen to you. Here's a woman trying to get home from work, and you can hear it in her voice. She's afraid in her own country. She's afraid. She's living in her own country, and she's becoming fearful. And what we're seeing is just the beginning. And I hope to God she didn't give her name to any of the authorities when she called in, because now she's probably on some kind of a list. We're going to watch her. She's a hater. She's a phobe. She might go off at any moment. No, this is the absolute truth. And can I tell you something else? I know this because I have a lot of friends who do Christian work, pastors, ministers, missionaries, whatever. And I've heard this I know a couple that this happened to, and I've heard from so many more. These refugees that are coming in the country, there are Syrian Christians. We're not letting them in. In fact, the Christians that are in this country as missionaries, and there are a lot of countries that have sent their Christian people to the United States to, when you kind of look around, we're sort of losing our Christian mojo. You know what I'm talking about here? Immorality is rampant in this country. Fewer people attending church than ever. San Francisco Bay Area is the least religious place in the entire United States. So these missionaries come here to work with people, work with families, help them out, etc. The Obama administration, what I'm about to tell you is a fact, because I've experienced through friends of mine, and I've heard it from others. The Obama administration is not renewing the visas of Christians who have religious visas in this country. He's kicking them out. He's sending them back. I have some wonderful friends from the UK who had been here for years working with families. I mean, they're just tremendous family therapists. And they come into the worst of family situations, and they're able to shore things up like that. Somebody should have done a reality show on these guys. Booted out of the country by Obama. They lawyered up. They hired the very best immigration attorneys. People were paying for these immigration attorneys to do their thing. Couldn't do it. The Obama administration wanted the Christian religious workers on visas in this country out of here. It's the Savage Nation. Brian Sussman, always proud to be filling in. Got another segment yet to go on this, the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust to protect my wealth. Call 800-BUY-CO.
Brian Sussman in for Dr. Savage. Dr. Savage needed a couple days off. Can I just tell you something? He has been working it on all ends. So many people want a piece of his time with the book. And as a result, the book is skyrocketed. Debuted on the New York Times bestseller list, number 3, so that's huge. And you know how it is with the New York Times bestseller list. They really try to avoid writers like Michael because they don't necessarily fit the template of what the media would have you believe. So that's why border, language, cultures mean something, and we know that. You're a listener to this program, you know that. But what Michael Savage is saying at Government Zero is there are no borders, no language, no culture. This is the road we're going down. It must stop. Savage is not just seeing a problem, but dealing with the problem in no uncertain terms, complete with his 41 points on how to turn this ship around. I'm hoping that there are some politicians in Washington, D.C. who are reading this. In fact, I believe there are. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those is Dana Rohrabacher. He's a Southern California congressman, pretty decent guy. I mean, it's as if he's reading. I've read to you several portions from Government Zero on this version of the Savage Nation of this edition. Here's Congressman Rohrabacher. It's like he's reading from Michael's book. He's talking about this stem of Islamic immigration into Europe, and it's also occurring here. Take a listen to this.
Clearly, what we have seen over the past few months is unsustainable, and if not checked, will change the fundamental nature of European countries which are now being inundated. What we are witnessing is the destruction of Western civilization, not by an armed invasion, but instead through envelopment. The effects of this will not soon disappear, but instead could well turn out to be an historic change in the nature of many European countries.
Mm-hmm. And the United States of America, unless we do something, it starts with getting a copy of Government Zero. And then Obama's out there killing the pipeline today. Yeah, he killed that. No, he says what we need is infrastructure that, like highways and stuff. That'll produce real jobs. The beauty about the Keystone, it was going to be paid for by somebody else. And it would help us maintain our energy or help us go towards becoming fully energy independent. So Barack Obama today gave one away to his buddies at OPEC, 12 countries that do not have our interests in mind. Our best interests are not theirs. Friends, it's always a pleasure, always an honor to serve you. Brian Sussman. Check me out via Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. KSFO.com as well. Michael, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure. Right here on this, the Savage Nation.